You know, it's April 1st, but the preservation of frogs is no joke. Ha ha ha, I had to say it a little funny, Chris. We are here, obviously, the Vancouver Aquarium. The Panamanian golden frog was in the news big last week, but the local species that we have are so important. What do we have right here today?
We're working with the northern leopard frogs here at the greenhouse, as well as our Oregon spotted frogs. Northern leopard frogs, a species from Rocky Mountain area, critically endangered in BC, down to only one breeding population left near the Rocky Mountains. So we're doing all we can here to keep their numbers going.
And tell us a little bit about the age of these frogs and maybe what some of these numbers mean.
So we keep strict records of our genetic lineage of all our animals to maintain genetic diversity breeding down the line. We don't want any inbreeding deformities. We don't want anything to mess up their chances of survival. So we have animals dating back all the way to 2009 here at the Vancouver Aquarium.
And the importance of frogs on a bigger scale, why are they so important?
Well, frogs are pretty selective about their habitat usage. They need specific wetland requirements for breeding, for mating, for overwintering. When you stop seeing frogs, it means those habitats aren't around anymore.
And we don't want something like that, that's for sure. We need those habitats. At what point do these frogs do they get released? I guess they get released at some point, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. We breed them here, and we release the tadpoles. That's the best stage to release them at, just in case there's imprinting, and that's the best stage to release them at cost-wise, because they get expensive to hold long-term.
Well, doing important work here at the Vancouver Aquarium. Coming up in the next segment, Jody, we are going to check out the Panamanian golden frogs. For more details on all the good work that the Vancouver Aquarium does, you can check out their website.
All right, thanks, Dawn. That looks so cool.
Yeah, where we're saving the frogs. Well, we're not. The Vancouver Aquarium is. With their important work they're doing here with the Panamanian frogs, and also a very interesting way that they greet each other. Those details coming up next on VT. Stay with us. Chris, how do they greet each other?
So the Panamanian golden frog is renowned over the world for its use of semaphoring, which is just a fancy way of saying waving. They have a unique and distinct hand wave to not only greet their mates, but also to defend their territory.
And so in this case, with Nelson pointing the camera, once in a while they will. So we'll try to see if we can capture. What do we need to know about the Panamanian golden frog?
So the Panamanian golden frog is an iconic species in Panama. They've revered them for centuries there. They're lucky symbols to the natives there, and they're now possibly extinct in the wild. So their situation's looking pretty dire, but zoos and aquariums in North America are doing all we can to breed them, keep them going, and hopefully one day reintroduce them.
So this is as big as they get?
This is their maximum size, yes.
And you have them here specifically for breeding. What happens when you actually have some little baby frogs?
Well, the females lay egg chains under rocks in fast-flowing streams like the ones we've set up here. The tadpoles hatch out, metamorph into froglets, and then they're distributed around to other zoos and aquariums to continue breeding.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to actually see some of the tadpoles coming up next in the segment there, Thor, but some very interesting and important work saving the frogs, conservation of the frogs, of course, here at the Vancouver Aquarium. For more on all the great work that they do, you can check out their website.
Very cool, Dawn. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and maybe athletes as well. The best swimmers around right here. We're talking tadpoles coming up next on VT. It's all about the frogs this morning. Stay with us live from the Vancouver Aquarium. Yeah, exactly. And you know, we are going to be making our way into the main exhibit a little bit later, but we are talking about frogs today, appropriate maybe on April Fool's Day. Ribbit. I know, really cheeseball. You know that when Nelson, our camera guy, laughs, it's, you know, I'm just kidding. You know what? It's all about the frogs right now, and now we're going to see the little tadpoles.
That's right. So our Panamanian golden frogs, we're pretty happy with the success we had. First time breeding them ever here. We've got some tadpoles on display for visitors to see at the aquarium. They're about 3 months old now, just about ready to hatch out and climb out of the water any day now, really.
Okay, so what, do they eat algae?
Yeah, so they live in fast-flowing streams. They graze on the algae that grows on the rocks. They're pretty small, too. We're excited to have the challenge of working with them. We've never had a froglet so small here before.
And how typically, let's actually maybe give people an idea, because you say these are specifically small tadpoles. How big will most tadpoles be?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say an average, but most of our local species easily get to over 2 inches.
Wow.
So something this small for us is definitely a bit different.
Okay, and then at what point do they go from this stage to what we're seeing right there?
All the adults we have here are about 3 to 4 years old, but they get mostly full size around 2 years.
And what do people need to know about frogs as far as the importance of them being around. We're preserving them here.
That's right. Well, frogs are an important part of any ecosystem. They're food for animals. They're predators for animals. They keep lots of bugs in check. And the Panamanian golden frog, now that they're extinct in the wild, there are actually reports of snakes going down into the villages to look for a new food source. People don't want snakes around.
We don't want snakes, but we want the frogs. For more details on all the great work that the Vancouver Aquarium does, you can check out their website. They're also on Twitter. They post lots of pictures and lots of little factoids. Vancouver Aqua, they're back at the station. Yeah, we've been learning about the conservation efforts, of course, here at the Vancouver Aquarium of the frogs, but now we're actually in the Frogs Forever exhibit, and who knew there were so many different sounds that frogs made? Who also knew that frogs are also great parents? We talk parental care of frogs coming up next on BT. Stay with us. Learning a lot about frogs, and there are a lot of frogs in the Frogs Forever exhibit here at the Vancouver Aquarium, and despite the belief or the thought that if you kiss a toad that turns into a prince, no, not so much.
Not so much.
Not so much, but we are learning. Exactly, the frog likes it. Obviously, lots of different kinds of frogs here. What are we seeing right here?
Yeah, so this is a North American bullfrog, one of about 30 different species we have at the Vancouver Aquarium. We display them to just relay the important message to guests about the impact of introduced predators on native species. So bullfrog, brought here many years ago, is a terrible threat to our Oregon spotted frog and leopard frog populations in BC.
Now, of course, you mentioned over 30 species here. What else can people expect to learn here in the Frogs Forever exhibit?
Well, we've got lots of different animals. We like to display our local species, like our northern leopard frog, which we have conservation programs for to breed. We like to display species from around the world, like the African reed frog. They breed well on display so people can see the life cycle as it happens. Just sort of let people know about frogs around the world. One of my personal favorites is the phantasmal poison frog. Pretty rare example of parental care in frogs. You can see a male carrying tadpoles right now. So as the female lays the eggs, the male guards them. And when they're ready to hatch out, they'll climb on his back and he brings them right down to that pond there. Wow. So again, you can see the life cycle happening right here on display. And it's neat for people to see.
Yeah, super cool. So now, of course, we know that frogs eat like flies and those kinds of things. So do you introduce them into the exhibit like daily? How does that happen?
That's right. The frequency depends on the size and the needs of the frog. But yeah, we breed about 8 to 10 different species of invertebrates to feed to our variety of amphibians here.
Excellent. And of course, before we go back to this station here, let's take a look at this little guy here.
So our African clawed frog. Again, an important message, possibly the spreader of the chytrid fungus that's a threat to frogs all around the world due to their mistreatment in lab experiments in the early part of the century.
Well, they're doing very important work here at the Vancouver Aquarium. Of course, you can make your way here to the Frogs Forever exhibit. Of course, it's a great thing to do with the families there, Jody, and of course, the conservation of frogs, super important, as we've learned all morning long on BT.